Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hoops Crush podcast. Today is episode number 22, recording this on a Friday night. As always, I'm joined with Eric. Today, we got some playoff games to talk about. We are in the midst of round 2. Of course, last time we talked, there was only a game 7 left in round 1. We also have some Blazers news to get to today, finally. We haven't been able to talk about them in quite some time. So before we go any further, Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing good. We just had our selection show for the mock off season. You're the Thunder.
Yep.
I'm the Wizards. So we'll see how that goes.
Yes.
And on Monday, maybe we can start talking about if we're going to make a trade with each other or not.
Yeah, maybe. There might be something to do. Who knows?
But other than that, just I'm glad it's the weekend. How about you? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. Not a whole lot's happened. Just been chilling, watching some playoff games. Of course, as I told you last week, my birthday was on Tuesday, so now I'm 25. But other than that, nothing else has really happened.
I did wish you a happy birthday, but once again, happy birthday, man. Hope you had a good day. Was it good? Did you have a good one?
It was a normal day because my wife worked. But I ordered a bunch of NBA shirts because I like collecting jersey shirts. So, I got.
Who did you order?
I got like 7. I got just from like each team. I got Evan Mobley, Cade, Tatum. I wanted to get Edwards, but they didn't have him. And then some other ones I can't think of right now. But yeah.
So like a T-shirt with like the logo on the front, and then
because jerseys are too expensive. So
right. Okay.
For me anyway, if I had the luxury budget
jerseys.
Yeah. But like I said, also before we go any further, we usually talk about this at the end, but we are also available on audio platforms as well. If you don't like video, of course, we are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that. So make sure to check those out. But I think we should probably get the game 7 out of the way. Full disclosure, I did miss I think it was like the first quarter because I was at a birthday lunch. Yeah, I know, man. It's crazy. I actually have the same birthday as my grandma, so we always and they wanted to do it. Of course, this game was super early in the day.
Yeah, so, it was the only game on that day.
Yeah, I don't know why it was so early, but it was a fairly close game. I fairly don't remember anymore, to be honest with you. It's been so far back. But Paulo did his best that he could, but ultimately, Donovan Mitchell just the last 2 games, 40 in the game 6, and then 39 in game 7. The Magic have nothing to be ashamed about this season. Them getting this far was incredible. Almost very, very, very close to getting to round 2. Mobley had that huge block in one of the games that, Orlando could have definitely potentially have won. So nothing for Orlando to be mad about. Cleveland was just the more experienced team, and I don't think Orlando has anything to be mad about, like I said.
Yeah, completely agree. Of course, Orlando didn't want to get knocked out, but I think this is a successful season for them, and they have a lot to look forward to. They go into the offseason with a lot of cap space, and also, you make the playoffs. It's not a lottery pick, but they have a decent pick in the late first round there. And, so lots of options for them. They also have a couple of extra picks in the future. Not the greatest picks, like they have one from Denver next year. But, they have a little bit of draft capital, a little bit of cap space, a little bit of their own assets player-wise. They should probably consolidate a little bit at some positions. This should be I feel like last offseason was kind of just let the team grow, add a couple of draft picks. But both those draft picks, I like Jet Howard a lot. I'm not as high on Anthony Black, but he did okay when he played. But it's kind of interesting that they did this year and in the playoffs without getting basically anything from those guys outside of, I think Anthony Black played in some garbage time in some of the blowout games. But, if you get anything from them moving forward and have the chance to add some other assets this summer, things are looking up in Orlando, I think.
Yeah, and one thing they kind of discovered in this series as well is I think they kind of found who some of their long-term pieces are going forward. Like Jalen Suggs was really good in this series. Jonathan Isaac finally healthy for once in his career, pretty damn good as well. Paul Banchero really living up to the hype that he got at being taken number 1 overall when we all thought he was potentially going to the Rockets, number 3 that night. And of course, things changed last second, and now he's in Orlando as number 1 overall pick. So yeah, they're obviously going to be looking for some shooting, more offense, and I cannot wait to see who they decide that player is going to be. Obviously Blazers fans, we talked about this last time, I think. Anthony would be a perfect fit for them, and whoever, there's going to be someone they're going to go after, of course, I think, to increase their offensive firepower.
Yeah, they need shooting, obviously. Their defense was pretty good this year, especially for such a young team. So I don't think they necessarily. I mean, you always have to improve your defense and keep on tweaking it and stuff like that. But I think you're pretty confident that that unit on that side of the ball is in pretty good shape. And then you got a couple of guys in Franz and Paulo that can create their own shot. Now you just need that guard who can space the floor and create some gravity to where those guys aren't driving into pack lanes every game. And I think there's a lot of options for him. I'm really excited to see which way they go with that.
Absolutely. So Orlando, very, very bright future. Before we get into the round 2 games, though, I want to get the Blazers scoop out of the way. So the whole Chauncey Billups thing, because when it comes to Blazers media, it feels like you have to, or just things that come from the Blazers, and you could probably say this with any team, but it feels like you have to interpret it in your own way on what you think is truly going on. I was kind of watching you and Tori's not podcast, stream, of course, where you guys were kind of thinking what was going on, and I was trying to form my own opinions as well. When at first, so of course they ended up firing Ronnie Billups and Scott Brooks, so those guys are gone, and we lost.
Well,
Steve
technically, it was a mutual.
Yeah, mutual.
Part of
Steve Hetzel, of course, went to the Nets to join. I forget his name, but it was like Fernandez or something like that in Brooklyn. But with that being said, then there was a report on Twitter that there's a potential that Chauncey Billups is being looked at for other jobs as a head coach this offseason. And Phoenix came up as a name. Obviously, they went ahead and hired Mike Budenholzer. That's probably not on the table anymore. Obviously not on the table.
Yeah, I think initially I thought it was the Blazers kind of just kind of spitting this as, oh, see, we're right in keeping Chauncey and not firing him because, like, look, there are other teams that would jump on him if he was available. But the more like stuff came out and the more I thought about it, I think it's just as simple as like the Suns had some mild interest, particularly because I think KD and I think Booker likes Chauncey as well. Chauncey has had nothing but glowing things to say about Booker over the last year or so. Compares Sharp to him all the time, or as like a basis of what Sharp should look at to become. And so I think when that job opened up or was looking like it was about to open up, and Chauncey was like even being considered for a job like that. I mean, he's thinking, okay, go through another rebuilding year in Portland or we're going to suck again. I'm wanting to win. This organization obviously isn't prioritizing that right now. So I could go to this team that has KD and Booker and Beal and try to win right away. And so I think that's where it all started. And I think there were some other teams that were like, yeah, telling his agent, we'd definitely be interested in interviewing him and stuff. I don't know if anyone would actually hire him, but the bottom line is he's a really well-liked guy around the league. That's, I mean, been clear for, 2 decades now. And like everyone NBA wise that's been around him, whether that's through ESPN or his time in the Clippers or just players around the league or now with his time with the Blazers, like everyone just raves about what a nice guy he is and what a great person he is and all that kind of stuff. So I think he's really well liked, and he's the kind of guy, if you get him in an interview or in a room, he's going to say all the right things. He's going to kind of light up the room. People gravitate towards him. So I think he started to think, oh, well, maybe there's these other teams that are interested without really knowing if they're for sure interested. But it's still, as he's going into the potentially last year of his contract, because the second year is a team option, so he would have no choice. He could get fired after this season, and without any kind of compensation. So I think he's starting to look at it like, wait, I'm a lame duck here one more year. I'm coming back, but they just might ditch me after a year. So he might be angling to either get a longer term deal here in Portland, and if not, might be looking at greener pastures elsewhere.
So when it first came out that this was happening, my first initial thought was like this kind of reminded me of like the Blazers basically, kind of what they did with Dame, where they didn't want to come out and say that, we want to trade him, but we're going to try to push him away. And that's kind of what I was like. So do the Blazers just want to get rid of him, but they don't want to say it? Is that like what's going on right now? That's kind of what I first interpreted. But the more I thought about it, and you guys even Tori said this, he said, why would the Blazers want to fire Chauncey right now? Like, they have him, like I said, he's a lame duck. They know they're probably not going to be, well, depending on what they do this offseason, I don't know what their plan is, obviously. We'll see. But, like, yeah, there's really no reason to go try to hire a new coach right now, and it's not a really desirable job at the moment anyway. So, yeah, like, it feels like it probably is coming from Chauncey. I don't know if a mutual agreement is going to happen this offseason. It sounds like that was something that was, maybe going to happen. But if you really think about it, there's one job right now that's open, and is that the Lakers or is there more? I feel like there's only one job open right now. Is it the Lakers? And then I was like trying to think about some of these round 2 teams. Like if they get eliminated in round 2, would they fire their coach, and are they going to be interested in Chauncey? Like I don't, Cleveland, if they get eliminated, do they fire the Cavs and hire Chauncey? I'm not sure. Dallas, there was some extension talks with Jason Kidd. Like, are they going to fire Jason Kidd? I don't know. Like, I guess that's possible. Thunder, obviously.
The Mavericks just signed Kidd to an extension.
Oh, they did extend him. I knew they were talking about him or talking about it. So, yeah, that's not going to happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Obviously, Oklahoma City's not firing Mark Daigneault no matter what happens. And then the Celtics, you could make the argument that maybe they'd fire Missoula if they got bounced in round 2 somehow. But are they going to want to go from Missoula to Chauncey? Who knows? So, yeah, I don't know if there's really going to be a spot for him to land this offseason. I do believe he'll be back with Portland. It was just kind of interesting to see that, like, that opportunity was maybe going to happen. And it still could, technically. Like, I don't think Indiana would fire Rick Carlisle either based off this season. And Knicks are definitely not firing Tom Thibodeau. So, like, yeah, I don't think there's really a spot for him to go unless LeBron really wants him or something, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is possible.
There is the Wizards job is open as well.
Yeah, because Brian Keefe was just an interim. Yeah.
Wizards.
Yeah.
I just got offered to trade teams with someone that's interesting. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard his name connected to the Lakers at all. It sounds like it's going to be either Atkinson or JJ Redick at this point. And so if you're choosing like a former player that's close with LeBron, I think JJ, just did a podcast with him, stuff like that. So I think LeBron would be fine with that. I don't know. I mean, like I said, we don't even know if LeBron will be back, but yeah. So I don't think he's getting that job. And why would you leave the Blazers for the Wizards? I mean,
Yeah, no.
that might be the one job that's worse than the Blazers right now, right?
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
so yeah, I don't think he's going to he's not going to be like, oh, I want to go to a winner, and then leave this team for the Wizards and then just have an equally crappy record. I guess they could pay him a crap ton of money, but I don't see either side doing that there. So,
Yeah.
and I really don't think he's going to accept like an assistant role for like any team. Like, I think he'd rather just play out the year here. So I think it's just kind of posturing, trying to make it so he's not a lame duck, but I think it's going to fail. And I don't see any way where, unless something changes with the Lakers or like a random team that we don't know about, like you mentioned, ends up firing their coach still, I think he's going to be back one more year.
Yeah, so expecting Chauncey to be back in Portland one more year. I just had to get that quick notion out of the way.
I do think sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. Keep going.
The you know, it was pretty evident at the media or the exit interviews that they were going to keep Chauncey one more year, at least from Cronin's perspective. But I think, because I was always worried, like, oh man, this seems like it's not just like a 1 year thing. It seems like they're tied together. Like they don't ever really want to part ways, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But now with that stuff coming out, just a month or so later, I think I don't know. I get the feeling that this, either if it doesn't come to an end this summer, I think it's coming to an end next summer for sure.
You think there's a chance they would do it before the season ended next year?
Maybe.
Yeah,
Because like during the season, I guess it's not really. I mean, just have like an interim coach or whatever.
And if we're bad, they could just say it's all his fault or whatever.
That's why I'm curious to see who they hire as the lead assistant.
Yeah.
If Chauncey stays, because that person would have a leg up on possibly succeeding him if he's let go, or would be the interim coach most likely in that scenario. So, yeah, I'm wondering if like Brooks was told he wouldn't be considered for the job if Chauncey moved on or something, and then that's why he wanted to leave or agreed to leave. And then yeah, they probably were like, hey, we need someone different other than your brother
yeah.
on the coaching staff. So yeah, I think in terms of that, the Blazers will probably hire some assistants that at least one of them they feel pretty strongly about in terms of getting a good look at in their practice facility on a daily basis to see, not really a test, but like, is this guy head coaching material eventually? I don't think that's a bad way to go about it.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see who we hire. We'll see if Chauncey gets hired somewhere. Probably not going to happen, but you never know with this league. But of course, we are in the midst of round 2. We have not been able to talk about a single round 2. Thankfully, there's only 4 series we got to talk about, so we can kind of dive in depth a little bit more in these series rather than 8 series going on, of course. Or, yeah. So, Timberwolves Nuggets, of course, was the first game we saw on Saturday, and man, through the first 2 games, Minnesota, I was like, game 1, it was a great game, but game 2. I was like astonished. I was in shock. I was like, man, this feels crazy to see the Nuggets getting beat this badly with no Rudy Gobert. Of course, he had the birth of his child. Congratulations to him, which is why he missed game 2. Which was just, like I said, game 2, I don't know, man. Watching that game just was so weird. It was just felt so bizarre seeing the Nuggets get dominated like that because we're just not used to seeing that. And it's not like they were ultimately impressive against the Lakers because for the majority of the series, they, obviously were trailing, but they would always make, the clutch plays at the end, especially Murray, of course, hit 2 game winners in that series. But when Anthony Edwards drops 43 in game 1. And then Jamal Murray, not very good in game 1 or game 2, especially game 2. I mean, the whole team was just flustered. It just seemed like the refs were just letting Minnesota do whatever they want as far as physicality was concerned. There was no fouls being called, and we were and of course we had game 3 tonight as well, which ended up being a very boring game. Unfortunately, it felt like Denver never really was going to lose that game. So would have been crazy if Minnesota went up 3-0. But ultimately, this series has been fun, just seeing Minnesota, because they've just been a surprise that no one really. I can't say I didn't see this coming necessarily. I don't want to sit here and take credit, be like, okay, I saw this coming. I thought Minnesota was gonna be this good, but yeah, this definitely surprising because I chose against them in round 1, obviously. But like at the same time, I'm not shocked to see them playing this good so far, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it felt this way for a while. Even though, obviously Denver was one of the top seeds. It just felt like at times this season they're just kind of coasting. And a lot of good teams do that. So I don't necessarily think it's like a bad thing or blame them for it. And then, yeah, in the playoffs so far, up until tonight, it's almost like they're like, oh, well, we won the championship last year. Like the drive just isn't the same. And it's natural. It's really hard to be like, oh man, we have to get this done this year. Like this is our chance, because they got it done last year, and no one can ever take that away from them. So I felt like, I don't know, they were just kind of in a funk, and they didn't have a guy like Bruce Brown anymore, who was, he did a lot of things last year that helped them win, and to not have that in some of these series, I think is a big deal. But overall, when you have Murray the way he usually plays in the playoffs, and you have Jokic, I mean, you should be able to be in any series. So that's why I was so surprised that they lose the first 2 games at home. And we'll see. It's very rare. I think it's only happened 5 times in the history of the NBA where a team lost the first 2 games at home and then came back and won the series. And Denver's never won a series trailing 0-2. So we'll see if they can. Game 4 is obviously crucial for Denver, getting down 3-1.
And Minnesota, for that matter, too.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, I just talked about Denver kind of being complacent coming off a championship, not having that same drive. On the flip side, you got Minnesota after winning game 2. I don't know.
They looked really flat tonight. I will say that.
Everyone's like crowning them as the next big thing. Anthony Edwards is Michael Jordan, which, I mean, he is playing like Michael Jordan. So, like, I don't think that's like wrong of people to say. But, you start to feel yourselves a little bit, and you start to buy into the hype, like, oh man, we're really good. And then you take your foot off the gas and you let Denver back in the series tonight, when you had game 3 at home, could have basically ended the series tonight. So yeah, I think that's just a little bit of emotions into play. And I mean, personally, I just want some of these series, like we'll talk about it before, but I was so happy that a couple teams won game 2 on Thursday night, just to make it like even the series, so it wasn't all 2-0. But yeah, like I want this series to go 7, just like I wanted the Sixers and Knicks last series to go 7. The problem is this series has not provided any much in terms of drama at the end of games. So hopefully as we move further into the series, it's close and we see some close games at the end, because I want to see how especially some of the younger players on Minnesota respond to those situations.
I feel like game 4 is going to be a classic. It has to be, right? Minnesota has to bounce back from coming out as flat as they did. Denver has to not go down 3-1. So yeah, like I definitely 100% think game 4 is about to be a lot better. So I can't wait. I can't wait for game 4, because Minnesota, like I said, did not look good tonight. Jamal Murray had a bounce back game. Of course, he's been dealing with like a knee issue. But him, looking as good as he did tonight was huge for Denver because they definitely needed that. But we got a 2-1 series. We'll see if Denver can win Game 4. Yeah, should be exciting.
Is that game on Sunday? Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep. Sunday evening.
7
That'll be
p.m.
fun.
Yep. All right.
For you, Central Time.
Yeah. My bad.
I'm just kidding.
All right. The other series, well, I guess if we get in the Western Conference, because the West is fun, man. The West is fun right now. Denver and Dallas, obviously 1-1 now, which I'm really happy it is, because of course you guys.
OKC and Dallas.
Yeah. Okay. Or yeah, I said Denver. Sorry. OKC and Dallas. I chose Dallas to win the whole West, so it feels good to not see them go down 0-2. Game 1, I actually ended up falling asleep that night, unfortunately. So I didn't see the end of the game, but I woke up towards the very end, and I saw that Oklahoma City was, I'd pretty much had won the game. But I know Luka Doncic did not look good at all in Game 1. But yeah, Game 2, he bounced back big time. He was just making shot after shot. The Thunder made it close at the end as well. But Luka, I don't know. And then Washington set 7 threes, absolutely insane. Just what a great game out of him. Exactly the kind of guy they needed, and he is showing. I mean, when you have Kyrie Irving only scoring 9 points and you still won, I think that's exciting stuff. Like I said, Luka, PJ Washington were amazing. Tim Hardaway as well had a dagger 3 in the corner, which was awesome. I think the shot clock was about to expire, and he hits it, and that just took the whole motions out of the arena, because I felt like the Thunder were about to make it close again. It was somewhat close, don't get me wrong, but it felt like they were about to get back in the game. But yeah, Tim Hardaway with the big shot, and this series has been fun, man. This was one of my, more exciting series to watch, and I'm glad it's lived up. And then on the other side of things, Josh Giddey only plays 11 minutes. Did not play a single minute in the second half, I believe. I don't think he will be on the Thunder next year. I don't think he fits on this team at all. He's just kind of redundant. They don't really need him at all. And he probably needs to go somewhere where he's going to have the ball in his hands a little bit more on this team that just isn't there for him. So, but of course, Shea, was hitting some shots. Aaron Wiggins, or not in this one. I think that was Game 1 where he was phenomenal. But yeah, unfortunately, the Thunder drop a game at home. We'll see if they can win one in Dallas.
Yeah, the same thing happened with Dallas in the last series, right? They split in LA, then come home, and no one knew is the Clippers going to take over now? Kawhi was coming back, and all that kind of stuff. But then Kawhi gets hurt again, so it didn't really matter. And he wasn't good when he played, I guess. But so there's another team. You're heading home. You have a chance, if you win both these home games, to really put the Thunder in a tough position. But I'm fully expecting and hoping for a split in Dallas. Let's get these series 2-2, and let's have all these series come down to best of 3, because that would be amazing.
Absolutely. I cannot wait for Game 3 on that one. Man, the team, though, that I've had the most fun watching these playoffs, and I think it's pretty obvious who it is the New York Knicks. I'm a little worried about them because they are getting hurt, and they're, losing some bodies. They've lost OG, Mitchell Robinson. The Knicks, they just, right now, they dropped Game 3 in an absolute massive loss. I thought they were about to go up 3-0 based off how it was going. But yeah, Game 1 they win both Game 1 and Game 2. Both games have been awesome, by the way. And every single game the Knicks have played in the playoffs has been just a classic.
Dogfight, yeah.
Been just absolutely amazing. Especially tonight, man. Game 3, I thought the Knicks were about to go up 3-0, just like they had a lead there, and then the Pacers get back in it. And then freaking Andrew Nembhard, of all people. If you're the Knicks, you have to be mad. Andrew Nembhard hits a step back 3 at the shot clock, or, at the end of the shot clock, almost from Dame range, and just sinks it down, and just was the biggest shot of the night. And that ultimately helps the Pacers get a win at home where they avoid going down 0-3.
I don't know if you saw this, but go back and watch the replay. Before he picks up his dribble to shoot it, he actually dribbles the ball off his face.
I
Like
didn't see that.
he doesn't even have like control fully of the ball, and
No,
still
I didn't see
gathers
that.
it in and then hits that three. So what a big time shot from him.
Yeah, only
Uh,
5 points in the night, but like the most important 3 of the
yeah,
night.
yeah. DiVincenzo,
Oh man,
he was
DiVincenzo.
going to be the hero tonight for the Knicks, and yeah, the Knicks had a chance to take complete control of this series. But yeah, once again, I'm just happy it's going, or it's 2-1 instead of 3-0. Because man, those 3-0 series are so boring.
Yeah,
You
I
already
agree.
know who's gonna win, and I mean, outside of maybe the Celtics and Heat last year in the conference finals, but then Boston gets one out in Game 7. Um,
I will
so yeah,
say I did have fun watching Denver go up 3-0 just because of the way Murray.
oh yeah,
And it's fun seeing the Lakers lose the playoffs. Not gonna lie.
yeah. But then they won one, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, here we go. Why
Yeah.
not us?
Yep. They
Uh,
did.
but yeah. So yeah, this was another fun game. Like you said, all these games have been awesome, and I think I know what happened to the Knicks tonight, Brady.
What do you
They
think
took
happened?
Josh Hart out of the
I
game,
know. I was about to
and
say that, man. Like first
and
time he's been benched one time.
and what do you know? They lose, right? They
Yeah,
got to
no.
play him all 48 minutes.
Thibodeau's not gonna put him out of the game ever again. We
Nope.
even saw Jericho
That's
Sims
right.
minutes tonight, which was kind of wild to see. Didn't register a single stat, but I guess, like I said, man, they have a Chua starting because they don't already have Randall. You lose, obviously OG Anunoby, which was a huge loss for them. We'll see. He is doubtful, I think, or I think he's going to be doubtful for Game 4. So yeah, the Pacers need to take advantage, man, because the Knicks are
Absolutely.
on one other in like Knicks, if they get one other injury, which Brunson has had some scares, obviously he missed like the entire first half in the last game, still ended up getting like 30 at the end. Man, I really hope the Pacers even this one up because they need to take advantage of this while they can. And I'm a little worried about Halliburton as well. He was like limping pretty badly after the press conference. I know he hurt his ankle at the very end. But ever since game 1 where he only scored like 6 points or I think he only scored, or not 6 points. I think he only shot like 6 times. He's been ultra aggressive in the last 2. He's been hitting his threes. He's been amazing, and that's exactly the kind of Halliburton they need. They need him to be aggressive, and they got that again tonight, and this time it resulted in a win. So you got to be happy with that, and you got to hope you continue to see that from Halliburton.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you said him, but Mitchell Robinson's also out for the season now.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy. You gotta rely on some guys that you didn't think you'd have to rely on if you're the Knicks. But this is the problem when you have such a short rotation and you don't play many guys. You wear them out first of all, and second of all, if they get hurt, you don't really know what you have in some of these other guys. And they've stepped up at certain points of the year. I mean, McBride had some good moments during the season. Everyone thought they needed to trade for a backup point guard, but he's been pretty solid. Uh, Burks actually hadn't played much and then comes in and hits a few baskets in the first half of this game. So yeah, can the Knicks withstand all these injuries? But they've still been okay without OG, but it's been so much better for them since they made the OG trade when he's available. So not having him is just a huge loss, and I really don't know how they overcome it. I still think they could beat the Pacers, maybe, especially since they had a 2-0 cushion. But I definitely think it's going to be tough from them moving on from here if OG is not back soon.
yeah, I agree. When it comes to Miles McBride, I didn't even know that McBride was this good, and maybe they did because they extended him immediately after they traded quickly,
It wasn't
and
very much either.
yeah, not very much at all. He's on a steal of a contract, and he has balled out for them ever since quickly has been gone. So They did a really good job extending him when they did, and they got him on a bargain now. So that was a really good move for them going forward. And of course, we'll see what they do in Game 4. Gonna be interesting. A lot of injuries in that series, but hopefully Howie's gonna play. I assume he will. I don't know. I was just a little worried about how much he was like limping, but
Right.
we'll see. We'll see.
Well,
All right.
that Game 4 is also on Sunday, so a couple of good games. Too bad it's Mother's Day. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because the lottery. Yeah, it's right after the lottery. Yeah.
Yep.
Very interesting. It feels like the lottery came, which I guess we need to talk about that at the end as well.
It is earlier than normal last year.
Yeah,
Or
definitely.
at least by a few days.
And now we have the Cavaliers and the Celtics, which both games have pretty much been a blowout, going both ways. This is literally exactly kind of what happened in the last years for Boston. They, win game 1 convincingly, then they lose game 2 convincingly. So I don't know what's going on with Boston. Tatum had a weird press conference where they said they're not a super team because they don't have an MVP or something like that. I don't even remember what he said. But yeah, I didn't know if Boston would sweep necessarily. I could still see this being literally exactly what happened last year's where Boston takes, care of business the rest of the series. But part of me thinks like the Cavaliers, were able to get a win without Jarrett Allen, and the Celtics are missing Porzingis, and outside of Al Horford, they do have Tillman, who they traded for, and they have Cornette, but I don't know. I feel like Allen and Mobley could, especially Mobley with the way he's been playing. I feel like Allen and Mobley could be huge problems for Boston without having Porzingis. And I don't want to sit here and say that like Boston's now going to lose this series, but I definitely feel like this is going to be a lot closer than I don't know. I don't feel like this is going to go how it went in Miami for some reason. I have a weird feeling that Cleveland's going to push them to at least 6, I guess. That's kind of the sense that I'm getting right now, especially if Allen's anywhere close to getting back.
Well, to go 6, all they have to do is split their 2 home games coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Boston's a good team, but they could do that.
And Tatum's been horrible, by the way. Not been good at all.
Yeah, it's always funny when. Tatum is kind of right. Like they haven't won anything, but I heard some clips from before this second game 2 from some Boston media guys. Do you know what they were saying, Brady?
What were they saying?
They were discussing whether this championship would mean much because it was too easy. And they're in the second round. They haven't even won the championship yet. And they were talking about how this might be a tainted championship because it was like they weren't challenged at all.
Oh my gosh. Maybe the East, I guess
like
you could
how
say
can
that,
see
but
that?
Once you get in the West, I think whoever they face, they're going to have problems. Because I think anybody in the West that's left right now would give Boston problems. So I think that's a little crazy to say.
I know they're a storied franchise. They have a ton of wins. And if you're a Boston sports fan, man, you've had it good for a long time. Like probably better than almost any other city in terms of like all of your teams being good at some point over the last couple decades. So I don't think you have anything to complain about win or lose. But man, like that kind of attitude is just crazy. I don't.
Like I said, man, it's probably because they got so many damn championships throughout all their sports teams, so maybe that's why they have that mindset. I don't know.
They're just cocky as heck. Yeah. But they gotta win one though. Like Tatum and Brown. We've talked about this on several previous episodes. Like if they lose to the Cavs or even the Knicks or Pacers next series, I just think this season is an absolute failure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they do something drastic or run it back, but to me, if they can't get it done this year, I don't know how you can feel confident just like bringing, those 2 back as your best players and hoping things will be different in the future. So I don't know what you do, but they're still in the driver's seat. They, like you mentioned, they had a bad game 2 in the previous series, so they're probably just telling themselves right now that it's the same. But I don't know. Cavs come out. Mitchell's been phenomenal. He's been difficult to stop. It feels like he's injured or something. Like, I don't know. It feels like he like has to exert so much energy to drive and score, and then he's like hobbling back down the court and can barely move, but then he gets the ball again and he's electric. It's crazy how that works sometimes. There's the adrenaline and stuff. I'm not like insinuating he's faking or anything. That's just how it is sometimes. Luka had the same thing in game 2 there, where he was like limping up the court, and then next time he gets the ball, he hits like a step back three.
I was like, yeah, bro. I was so worried when that happened. I was like, dude, because it felt like it wasn't non-contact, but like it definitely looked bad. I was like, man, I hope Luka's okay. And then he was like, just like gets the ball, step back three. I was like, okay, yeah, he's good. I was like, so I'm glad to see he was all right. And there's been some scares with Luka, but yeah, man, it'd be crazy to see, like, and again, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but if Boston did get eliminated by Cleveland in round 2, how quickly would the narrative change on Donovan Mitchell? Because that's everyone's favorite darling to talk about. Like, Mitchell would want out of Cleveland because they didn't get far enough. I feel like if they made it to the conference finals and beat Boston, Mitchell would have no reason to want to leave. I feel like I think they're like up there. And when it comes to Boston, I don't know if the path in the East gets any easier than what you have right now. You didn't have to deal with Milwaukee at all this year, which would have been the team to, and again, the whole East was just kind of bad outside of Boston because there was like a 14-game lead for them in the first seed. But you didn't have to deal with Embiid. Not that Embiid's ever been a problem for them. Obviously, they've eliminated him almost every time. There's no other team. You don't have like a Kawhi Leonard Raptors team to deal with or anything like that. Like this was like I said, their biggest threat would have been a healthy Giannis and Dame. Had it gone how everyone expected this year. And they hadn't had to deal with that. And they got to play Miami with no Jimmy Butler. And then you get, Cleveland, which they don't have Allen right now, but I'm sure he'll be back soon. And I don't think anyone thinks Cleveland is like a team that should be beating Boston, but we'll see, man. We'll see. And then whether it's the Knicks or the Pacers, I think those are two teams that should be able to beat, especially if the Knicks come in as hobbled as they are. Like, Boston should be able to win that. So like this, it doesn't get any easier than this because you assume Philadelphia is going to get better, even though, again, like Philadelphia's never really truly been a threat. Milwaukee, you'll see if they're healthy next year. We'll see if any other team gets better in the East. Like, does Orlando just like go on a crazy run next year or whatever? So yeah, this would be the year to do it if you're Boston. It would be one of those West teams that I think would give them a problem. I'm not really sure who would give them the biggest problem, but we'll see. We'll see, man. Boston, you got to take advantage of the path you have right now, I think.
I think it kind of depends on Porzingis' status, who gives them the biggest problem. Because if they don't have Porzingis, I think the length of the Timberwolves up front might be tough for them. But yeah, I don't know, man. They also might have a tough time with Jokic, but I mean, everyone does. You really say that's like a problem with them. But yeah. So like I said, just glad we're not talking about any sweeps here or anything like that. For really interesting and fun series. Hopefully we get some more games like the first game tonight where Nembhard hit that shot at the end, because that's what makes playoff basketball so exciting when it comes down to the end.
And a role player hits a shot or something.
Yeah, just 2 steps up and all that. Man, I miss playoff basketball. Although it does suck with like last time we saw him in the playoffs, Dame scoring like 55 points and us losing and stuff.
Bring that up?
I'm sorry, but like
so painful.
That was one of the best games of all time in the playoffs, and we freaking wasted.
That bet that night I went to sleep. I just remember how pissed off I was.
Robert Covington missed like 2 dunks at the end.
Yeah, it was a disaster class, man. Outside of Dame, everyone else was just like literally a disaster class. Powell couldn't hit anything. CJ stepping out of bounds, like just PTSD, man. Literally. All right, but outside of that, speaking of the Blazers, to end off this episode, we got the lottery on Sunday.
Yes.
So, going into this lottery, I'm not as nervous because, this draft class, for this draft class is not as, strong as last year. There's no Wimby necessarily. And two, we don't have the cloud of Dame. Not that Dame was like a dark cloud by any means, but there's no like, oh, what are we going to do with this pick? Now that we have still Damian Lillard, obviously we're drafting with this pick no matter what. Unless if we like traded down or something, I guess. But, we right now have the fourth best odds, technically, almost tied with third. It's like a 0.1 percentage chance, right? Or something like that. So I know you guys are enamored with Alex Sarr, and that's who you guys want. And, I am, as you know, I'm not a huge prospect guy. So I tend to just want to agree with you guys on who y'all want because I feel like y'all know your stuff. So, yeah, I think for me, outside of Alex Sarr, I'm not really sure who else I would really want in Portland at the moment. So, yeah, I guess I'm hoping for number one, number two.
That's why I'm not really tripping as much as last year because I don't know. So just real quick, that pick odds, the pick we have the biggest chance of getting is 24.6%, and that's the sixth pick. And then the second best odds are the seventh pick, which is 16.4%. Very unlikely we go down to 8. Very unlikely we're 5. But then the top 4, if you combine them all, we have a decent chance of moving up as well. A 50% chance, actually. So it's basically 50-50 whether we get a top 4 pick or not. And if not, it's more than likely going to be number 6. So, yeah. But I don't really think there's – I don't know. I don't really think there's a huge difference between like 2 and 6 in this draft other than obviously if there's a run on wings and then it's just like the best players on your board are guards at 6 or something. That's going to be tough to like try to maneuver that in your mind. Like, do you pass up on the best player on your board and take someone lower on your board just because we don't want another guard? Or do you make a trade prior to that to ease that up a little bit, the guard rotation? I don't think it really matters too much, but I do think getting the number 1 pick, or if we got 2 or 3 and got lucky and Sarr fell to them, I feel like a lot of people will talk about Sarr's offensive lack of production, but he's a game changer on defense. And when you have a guy who's plus 7 feet tall, who can switch on to quicker guards and do a good job of keeping them in front, and also protect the rim and get back between protecting the rim and the perimeter like quickly as well. Recover speed good, awareness good, timing on blocks is good, lateral quickness is good. You look at Miami and what a difference getting a Bam Adebayo was for them. And I really think he could have a Bam-like impact on a team or whatever team drafts him.
So, yeah, part of this, like I said, lottery is like, the draft class is considered weaker, but I'm also somewhat kind of scared on who they really like going into this. Like, who do they think is the, right piece to add to this roster right now currently? Because, you have your guards of the future, whether that, includes Anthony Simons being here as well, remains to be seen. But you obviously have Shaden and Scoot. You're going to have Ayton for at least probably another season, if not 2. You love what you got in Tamati Kamara in the Dame trade, and he'll probably be a long-term piece. Chris Murray, Jabari Walker, obviously guys that are, remain, maybe turn into something one day, but you're not like too strong on them. So yeah, I think a forward obviously is kind of where we need the most help. And having a center as insurance plan as well for the future, it wouldn't be the worst thing in this draft either. Whether that's a cling in later, in the lottery, depending if we fell or whatever. So.
He's getting this, like, everyone's saying he's like top 3 now, which is crazy. But
yeah, and it's gonna like Because I know once Sunday hits, I usually do, or after the lottery, I usually do like a series where I do like the rebuilds based off who I think this team would draft. And it's gonna be very hard this year because I'm not really sure. It's gonna be interesting. It's all gonna depend on the order, I guess. As always. But last year was a consensus number one. We don't really have that this year, and there was like a consensus top three, like Miller, Scoot, whether it was and everyone thought Scoot was going too, but obviously the Hornets took Miller. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting lottery to say the least. And, just remember, just because it's considered a weak draft class doesn't mean there isn't going to be some superstar that comes out of this class. We've seen that in 2013. Giannis Antetokounmpo, was considered one of the, worst draft classes, I think. Or wasn't it 2013 they said it was like one of the terrible draft classes?
Well, it was, yeah. Like, a lot of the top picks were horrible that year. I mean, yeah, Oladipo at 2, I think. But yeah, you had some really bad picks.
The McCollum draft, and so.
Rudy Gobert was picked 27th in that draft as well.
So there's always going to be a good player drafted, more than likely, is what we're getting at. So
yeah, it's not guaranteed, but it's more than likely there's someone, and at the very least, players that can be impact players. It's not always the top picks.
So to end it off, Eric, I want to steal your guys' thunder for a second. I don't ever do this. Do you give me permission to do a tankathon to end this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'm not going to be able to show it to you guys because I don't really have that set up, but I will read off. I will read off how it goes. So I got to be as quick as Tori when he clicks sim. All right. I was able to do it correctly. So, I scrolled up a little too far, but that's okay. So we got Portland, of course, via Golden State. Sacramento, number 13. 12 Thunder. Nobody moved up so far. 11 Chicago. 10 Atlanta. And here's where you got some movement. You got San Antonio dropping to... this is Toronto's pick. My bad. Toronto's pick dropping to 9. So that does convey to San Antonio.
So we had 3 teams move up. That
Three
means
teams moved up,
Memphis, Utah, and Houston via Brooklyn all moved up into the top 4. And now if you're in this position and you're any of the other top 5, so Portland, Detroit, Washington, and San Antonio's other pick, all of them are like, you've got to be kidding me at this point.
Yeah.
Because all but one of those 5 teams is not in the top 4. That's an insane sim, Brady.
I might be terrible luck.
Well, I mean, if we're going, it only has like a 2.2% chance of happening, but Portland should be there at 8 then.
Yep. Right.
Shoot.
That's so weird that the one time I do it, the worst possible outcome, the lowest possible outcome happened. So
2.2% chance.
We drop to 4 spots to 8. Charlotte drops 4 spots to 7. Washington drops 4 spots to 6. Detroit drops once again to number 5. And then Utah is in the top 4 at number 4. Brooklyn via Houston. So Houston keeps their pick as they jump up 6 spots. And then Memphis is 2. San Antonio goes back-to-back years of having number 1. So just an absolute insane sim there.
Houston actually, that's Brooklyn's pick. It's on.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
It's the Houston's pick that OKC is top 4 protected.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, so
you
they
said the Spurs got 1?
Yeah, Spurs got number 1. They jumped
So Spurs got 1 and 9?
Yep, 1 and 9 in this sim.
That's pretty good for them because
yeah,
they could take Sarr as a luxury at 1, and then still I think one of the guards will still be there at 9. Man,
and
that's scary to think about.
What Memphis could do at 2 would be kind of crazy too. What the options they would have. Do you think Alex Sarr and Jaren Jackson could play together? Do you think that would be a fantastic fit?
Oh, I think it would be a good fit.
Yeah.
I wonder if Klingon would be a good fit there as well.
Yeah, so man, that was unlucky. I don't know if I should ever quick take a thought again.
You're banned, Brady.
I might have to be, man. That was horrible. I
You
guess.
tried.
Yeah, that's enough tankathon for me for one day.
well, I mean, by the next stream, we'll have the lottery set, so we won't have to do tankathon anymore.
Yeah.
Or not next stream, but next video. And then, yeah, so we won't have to do tankathon until next NBA season.
And then you guys are gonna do one last tankathon before the lottery starts, right?
Yeah,
so we can get rid of this one. This will be the last one people hear about. And then, because I know you guys got number 1 in the last time you guys did it, so I'm over here screwing it up, and I get
8 and 14 is crazy.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate for sure.
We actually have a greater chance of, because let me make sure. Yeah. So the Warriors pick at 14 has a 3.4% chance of moving up into the top 4 and us not getting their pick this year. And Portland, like I said, only has a 2.2% chance of getting 8. So we had, in your scenario, we had a less likely outcome of Portland moving down 4 spots than Golden State moving into the top 4 and us losing their pick.
Not sure if I should ever touch this website ever again. So.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find, like, there's other sites that do the lottery too. Like I think Fanspo has one.
Yeah.
So you might have to do it on there for now.
Yeah, maybe. I probably should be banned from this site. All right. Do you have anything else to add before we sign off on this one?
Just want to say thank you for watching. If you're watching this before the lottery on Sunday, Tori and I will be live during the lottery, a little bit before and after as well, breaking down what we think Portland is going to do, hopefully celebrating getting the number 1 pick, that. So look for that on the Blazers Uprise channel. And then Brady's had a bunch of good rebuild videos over the last week, or always has them. But you're pouring them out here with the teams that get eliminated.
Yep.
And so if you're interested in what Brady thinks some of these teams should do, kind of realistic or more realistic than a lot of other 2K rebuilders. So go check out his channel on Crushables on YouTube.
Absolutely.
And thank you for watching. And like Brady mentioned at the beginning of the show, wherever you get your podcast, you can also listen to this. Just search for Hoops Crush. I found it on the Odyssey app before, as well as the platforms you mentioned. So I think it's pretty much available anywhere you can get your podcasts. And then, or you can just do the traditional watch on YouTube as well. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great weekend. And I'll let you do the outro.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We will see you next week with the results of the lottery, and maybe a team will be eliminated by the time we talk again. But I don't know if that's even possible. It probably is. I haven't looked at the schedule, but peace out.
It is.
Go Blazers.